Hey BoLS fans, AdamHarry here once again with another BoLS Retro Corner review. Today I have the third part of the White Dwarf Presents Warhammer 40k Compendium. Again, this is during the Rogue Trader era of White Dwarf. It's a compilation magazine. It was a compilation of all the magazine articles in White Dwarf relating to Rogue Trader era 40k. So the past couple ones we've gone over painting techniques, conversions, different fluff stuff, different backgrounds, added Terminators, Chaplains. Check those out in the playlist there. I've got them all set up that way so you can watch them all. But today we are picking up where we left off with the army lists. So this is the first official published army lists collected. So here we go. So what we have here is Codex Imperialis. This is the Space Marine version, the Space Marine Codex. So the early army lists. So it just goes through here, how to use a list, obviously, Tech Marines, squads, how those worked. This is, again, a much loved copy of this book, so the previous owner has marked it up, kindly punched it out for me, but as you can see, it's much loved. So again, it goes through here. This is the first time you have everything listed out, points for all the different chapters. This is for a generic Marine army list. So we've got lieutenant commanders, captains, lieutenants, chaplains. You know, I always wonder what happened to lieutenant commanders and lieutenants, but they've all been kind of rolled into the chapter master and captain subclasses. Librarians, tech marines, medics. If you notice too, they also have the 0-1 or 0-4 or 0-6 or 1-4, whatever. That's just as back in the day when we were building lists, you had to have certain mandatory ones and certain ones you couldn't have more than one of, or 0-1 options. So kind of wish they'd bring some of that back for the new stuff. So if you notice here too, I want to point out all these Marines, for the majority of them anyway, if you're just a regular Marine, you only have a toughness value of 3. That doesn't change until later, and we're actually going to cover that in the upcoming weeks as we go through more and more of these Retro Corner stuff. So anyway, but this is the first one. TAC squads. They were 315 points per squad starting out. That is a far cry from what they are now. So TAC squad basics, you had 7 Marines, 1 Marine with a missile launcher or something like that, and 1 Marine with a flamer. So and a sergeant. So that's your 7 basic guys. Heavy weapon, special weapon, so that's 9, plus a sergeant, that's 10. And you could have 0-8 TAC squads at 350 points per squad. So yeah, and then all the different stuff you could have, which is why this is all highlighted. So assault squad 0-4 at 295 points per squad, and Devastator squad at 415 points. It looks like they've taken some white out to these pages, so maybe that was I don't know, FAQ'd or something later on. But anyway, Terminator TAC squads 450, Terminator librarians over here, Terminator captains. So again, those were all introduced White Dwarf, and then later compilations were added there. New weapons and equipment, Imperial stasis field, power fields, combi weapons. So you had double barrel, triple barrels, crazy stuff like that. One other thing I wanted to point out before I flip the page is back banners and ceremonial banners were also here. The fluff part was written about them here. They actually don't do anything in the game, so it's not like +1 attack or anything like they are. But the back banners were used as squad identification, squad markers, stuff like that. The ceremonial banners also kind of showing off armies and just kind of, you know, showing the standard and, you know, rallying point for the troops, more for the player, but not really an in-game effect. So thought that was kind of neat. Additional equipment, vehicle support weapons, dreadnoughts, robots. We talked about that last time. Tactical equipment, all that fun stuff. Off-table support. So off-table support was interesting. Being able to call in artillery from off the board. It's kind of neat. It's something that I kind of miss. I mean, the orbital strike is similar to that concept, but if you've ever played like a campaign scenario where maybe your buddy's playing IG and you want to call in some artillery from this hex to that hex, and you know you're not actually on the same table, that's kind of how this that's kind of how that concept came into play. But basically 1,000 points to be allocated to supporting fire from beyond the battle zone. So it's kind of interesting. You have spotters, request support fire, and all that fun stuff. And it was actually in the rule books for range options. So yeah. Anyway, also one of the cool things about having this book in the punch out here is you have this cool picture. At first I thought these were like related. They're not, but it looks kind of cool together. So you have this one page of fluff that you can pull out and see like 2 different chapters, and they're you know, 2 different Marine chapters and how they looked vastly different. This is probably some Proto-Imperial Fist chapter. They have spikes on the top, so it's not the standard Imperial Fist, but they're fighting orcs, so maybe they're a Crimson Fist or something like that. And these guys over here have the camo and a wolf banner of some type. So yeah, convert. So I don't know if they're space wolves or not, but anyway, thought that was interesting. Equipment profiles just gives you the basic rundown of all that fun stuff there. So standard weapons, all that good stuff. Then you have the Imperial Guard army lists. Again, one of the first compiled books here. Goes over pretty much everything you need to know. Regiment names, companies, platoons, how all that stuff works. Recruitment, how this is all fluff background, how you get more guys. It's either, you know, getting quotas from each generation, you know, basically pulling guys from hive planets or terra planets or, you know, farming planets or ag planets or whatever, and how they all just kind of get press gang into the Imperial Guard. So yeah, training, employment, supply. Obviously the commissar is not happy with this infantryman trying to run away. More on commissars here: Rough Riders, Sanctioned Psychers, Adeptus Mechanicus, also servitors, part of the IG guys. Imperial Beastmen, that was a thing, folks. Beastmen were abhumans that were in the Imperium. They were not considered chaos, or obviously they were mutants, but just like Ogryn and Ratlings, they were part of the IG army list. So pretty crazy. Penial battalions, that's something that they visited in a couple of codex ago, and subsequently have gotten rid of that. But yeah, penal legions, human bombs. So yeah, the IG were not above blowing themselves up to take you out. So how the platoons work and how the squad coherency works with those giant platoons of guys. All the different special units you could have: assault platoons, Rough Riders, Beastmen, Ogryns, all that fun stuff. More on how the Adeptus Mechanicus, Commissars, and Sanctioned Psychers worked. All their different equipment and the uniformity of equipment. There are those Imperial Beastmen, man. They were a thing. Collar detonators, that's for the human bombs. The penal legions trying to run away and stuff like that. So yeah, the old thud gun, that was a murder weapon there. So IG force compilation, and then of course the actual army list. You can see the format over the years hasn't changed. I mean, obviously it has changed. For each of these would get their own page nowadays with their own fluff rules and everything, but the basic profile is the same, layout and all that stuff. That hasn't really changed too much. They have gotten rid of a couple of stats and kind of rolled those into other things, but it's just interesting to me too that the basic IG guy, which would have been probably on the next page, or attack squads up there, also toughness 3, just like a Marine was. So they just had crappier armor. So Marines weren't super awesome yet. With tough 4. So, but yeah, basic layout: your commander, captain, lieutenants, Adeptus Mechanicus, servitors, commissars, Sanctioned Psychers, command section, attack squad, support squad, assault squad. And again, you had mandatory choices, and then you had the 0-1 choices. So, but yeah, that's how those all laid out. And then White Shields is a conscript guys, Beastmen attack squads, Ogryn squads, Rattling Marksmen. So yeah, it's interesting that the way they lay this out, the way it looks very similar to me. I've been playing these games for I don't know how long now, but kind of scary actually. But the format has been tweaked and changed slightly over the years, but it all goes back to the roots of these army lists. So special equipment chart, that hasn't changed too much. You know, I mean, they obviously have gotten rid of some of the weapons. Crack is spelled with a, actually how you spell crack, not with a K, but with the CR. They've gotten rid of some of those grenades, but they keep popping back up. You know, last edition you had the hallucinogen grenades. You still have those, but just kind of different. Photon grenades have been changed, you know, virus grenades, all this other stuff, Tanglefoot stuff. Well, maybe in 8th edition we'll see some of this stuff come back. Who knows? Who knows? So, yeah. Sentinel, Imperial Guard vehicles, all the fun stuff, damage for all those different robots and things. Now we get to the section that I think a lot of us kind of wish were still around, or at least as an option. Maybe they'll come back one day. Probably not. But this is the squat's army list. This is the original squat army list, published in White Dwarf way back when. So yeah, history of the squats, squat homeworlds, talks about them being part of the core worlds in the center of the galaxy, and that's why they're so short. So how they got separated and all that fun stuff for the Imperium, how they fought with the orcs, and how that all went down. Squats in relationship to the Imperium, squats in relationship to Chaos, their physiology. I mean, this is all just, it's very meaty, you know, very rich information about the squats. Just, yeah, squat society. All the background you'd ever want to know about the squats collected in these pages. So, pretty crazy. Squat strongholds, engineer guilds. Yeah, living ancestors, how they function with those guys on the battlefield, warlords and Hearthguard. Just all the craziness that is the squats. They had the same IG, like that's the Rhino. Rhinos, again, were the APC of the Imperium. It didn't matter if you were IG or Space Marines. Everybody used Rhinos. That was a thing. So, yeah. And then they talk about squat exo armor, which is really cool. It's like Terminator armor for them. So it's really cool. Saving throws. 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So it was a 2-up. Kind of cool. Some sweet squat art for you, folks. That's a commissar hanging out with the squats because they are part of the Imperium. So, pretty crazy. And then the squat biker guys, they were all on trikes and stuff riding around. Squats, it looks a little bit like 7 Dwarves, I'm not going to lie, but that's still kind of cool. Squat vehicles. So, they had to talk about the trikes, all that stuff, how their army composition worked for them. And then really what I wanted to get to was traitor squats, not those guys, but what I really wanted to get to was the actual army list that shows you kind of, if you ever wondered what squats stat wise look like, I'll read these out to you. Movement 3, so a little bit slower. This is the warlord, so one of their champion. Actually, let me go to a basic squat guy. Squad, here we go. Combat squad. 7 troopers. So movement 3, again, a little bit slower than your average guy. Weapon skill 4, so they shoot just as good as a Marine. Or sorry, hand-to-hand combat was 4, so weapon skill 4, so they're just as good as close combat as a Marine. BS 3, so a little bit worse shooting. Strength 3, so not quite as strong. Tough 4, so this is where they were just tougher than your average guardsman. 1 wound. Initiative 2, 1 attack. Leadership 9. So again, that translates, I think that's one of the reasons that the squats got squatted originally was once the Marines became strength toughness 4, then you basically just had slower moving guardsmen who weren't as good as shots, but were supposed to be good in close combat. But how do you get into close combat? So I think just design changes over the years, they got kind of complicated where they didn't really fit anywhere to do anything unique army-wise, which is unfortunate. I think you could go back and kind of find a place for them, figure out what you wanted to make them good at, what you want to make them unique at, and I don't know. But anyway, that's me and my 2-cent design opinion there. So anyway, the Warlords, Hearthguard, pretty cool stuff here. They have pretty much standard weapons that the Imperium had, so you know, lasguns, bolters. They did have the special armor because they're short. They did have some. Oh, the Traitor Squad allies worked with Chaos, so that was in the Slave to Darkness and Lost in the Dam, which I did a review of, Lost in the Dam. So anyway, we already went over the combat squads. Again, they were squads of 1 leader and 7 troopers, and then you can purchase additional equipment. So it's kind of weird that they had 8 guys in the squad, but whatever. Brother Weapon Support Team, Guildmaster, Guild Weapon Team, Bikers, Living Ancestors. It's just really old squats. Commissars, Additional weaponry down there, tech priests. Again, these are Imperial guys that were part of the squats as well, so because they were all part of the Imperium. So I've already ruined the surprise. Next up, Harlequins. This is another army list that everybody misses. That had played during the era anyway. They missed the old Harlequin list. If you didn't have a Harlequin army at the time, you probably were not excited to play against it because they were pretty rough. They had a lot of really cool war gear, and they were just mean. But if you had this army, you probably have missed them ever since. They have since been rolled into the Eldar. They've been part of the Eldar and then removed from the Eldar and then put back in the Eldar. So they have this kind of weird, are they going to be part of this edition or not, kind of vibe going on. Recently, I believe they were pulled from the Dark Eldar Codex. So take that for what you will. So anyway, the way they worked, they had the Avatar, Harlequins, Warlocks. This is their little, kind of how they work together, or how their force organization chart looked like if you just drew it out. Death gestures and stuff. So, high Avatar, high Warlock, a Mime. These guys were mean, man. Just fluff-wise, I mean, stat-wise, they're bonkers. For instance, I'm going to read this Solitaire. Okay. It's movement 6, weapon skill 7, BS 7, strength 4, tough 4, 3 wounds, initiative 9, 3 attacks, leadership 10. So again, pretty much outclasses every other unit I've gone over thus far from this era, and it doesn't. That's a Solitaire. That's not even like the Mimes. Also, weapon skill BS 6, strength toughness 4, 2 wounds. I mean, 2 attacks base. So they would beat people up. Fall of the Eldar. The Harlequin army list was also, it's also kind of a skirmish army, obviously, but you could build a whole, man, they're just like ghost Eldar. They're just crazy, but you could build a whole army out of them. The monofilament injector, aka the Harlequin Kiss, which was original fluff of that. Monofilament wire would come shooting out of it, and they would just spread out and just buzzsaw you from the inside out. Shuriken cannons, just mean weapons back in the day. Mini grenade launchers. They also had a ton of like special rules and stuff too. So yeah, I like the art in this section too because it's like playing cards almost. Kind of fitting if you think about it, but yeah. Bio-explosive shurikens. It's kind of dirty. Anyway, moving on. Harlequin weapons. What their weapons? Neurodisruptor. This art keeps popping up again and again, so that's where it comes from. Weird looking crystal gun. So robots and vehicles, all that fun stuff. There's more shuriken weapons. They look more like, you can see like the proto shuriken weapons were very, very wide and had that weird circular disc, and they've since elongated that triangular shape out and got rid of the disc, but it's still there. If you look closely, you can see the design stuff has some of it's carried over. So Harlequin troops, high Avatar, he's a boss. Death Jesters, also mean. Higher Warlocks, Warlock Solitaire. A lot of these models, these pictures look like the model sculpts from back in the day too. So I remember seeing this guy a lot, and like something like that with the Harlequin Kiss on it. So character equipment charts, GW love those charts, man. But yeah, psychic charts. Harlequin Psychers are also really mean. So good stuff there. Anything in there that's still around? I mean, there's telekinesis, telepathy, smash. All those things are kind of in the game now. It's a level 2, so level 4, yeah. Aura of invulnerability. Now invisibility, right? So yeah, Harlequins. Over here, more cool, awesome 80s art, but that's pretty much it, man. And then the awesome subscribe now. So, but that's it. That is it for my review of the White Dwarf 40K Compendium. Hope you enjoyed it. This Ancient Tomb is going to go back in the binder, hopefully keep in good shape for another 20 years. Anyway, again, that's my review for the overview of the Warhammer 40K Compendium for BoLS. This is AdamHarry signing off. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one.